Hey guys, I just wanted to talk about, what the title says. I was inspired by a video by Neda Sotero, and I'll link that down below. But where she talks about how to detach and stay neutral from things, and I was agreeing with her, but I was wondering, how would that apply? Like when you're detaching from someone and their choices, knowing that they have their own free will and you can't control them. How do you still keep your boundaries being met? Like, let's say if you were in a relationship with someone and um, she says just to not have too much expectations of people, and I agree. Um, I feel like though with a relationship, let's say a romantic relationship, there's a mutually agreed upon expectation, and there's certain expectations for different relationships that are different than others. But let's say in a romantic relationship, you want to be able, like, you both expect the other person to talk to you every day, or not every day, but like once a week, check up on each other, something like that. And let's say that person stopped meeting that expectation. Well, then they're crossing your boundary over what you expect and need in a romantic relationship, but has already been agreed upon. And if they're doing that, that boundary is not being met, and so you need to reset it by pushing them out back where they belong. And it's different for different situations, but I was feeling like while it is true that you shouldn't expect anyone to love you a certain way, to love you a certain amount, to act a certain way towards you, you shouldn't expect certain things to happen just because. And I do also agree that detaching is better when you do realize that somebody is maybe not living up to your expectations. Detaching from those expectations in the first place is good. But when you have expectations, like, let's say if you're a boss and you expect your worker to be there on time, those expectations, there are certain expectations that need to be met, and you can't just detach from it. Um, you would have to set the boundary and then detach. Hi, Andric. Um, it would be setting that boundary and making sure that that boundary is being met and then detaching. So for certain situations, yes, let's say a new acquaintance you met, you thought they were cool, you expected them to be cool back because you were being cool towards them, and then they end up talking shit about you or something. Well, then your expectations that they were going to be a cool person are not being met. And in that situation, there's nothing you can really do but detach. You detach from that person, that expectation, because you now know and you realize that that's not a realistic expectation to have with this person, because they just aren't like that. That's just their free will, that's their choice. And for situations like that where it's like a smaller thing, all you'd have to do is detach, which is what she says down in the video below. But it can be harder or more complicated in situations where expectations need to be met in a certain way, or else you are crossing someone's boundaries. Um, Boundary setting can be pretty hard, um, especially the more muddier and complicated a relationship is, or the expectations of a relationship are. Um, I think what I really just wanted to say in this video is that if there are certain expectations in a relationship with someone, whether it's your boss, your coworker, you're in a relationship with them, whatever that relationship may be, if there are certain expectations that are inherent to the relationship, you are allowed to expect those things, expect that to be met, like expect that to happen. If those things aren't happening, and it's multiple times where your boundaries are being crossed because these expectations aren't being met for whatever the relationship is for, that is when you would first set that boundary and then detach. Because you can set that boundary, and whether or not that person decides to, whatever that person decides to do is up to them. But if you don't set that boundary first, like if you just detach if you just try to detach from it and be like, oh, they have their own free will, I can't force them to do anything. Well, that's a good mindset to have, to not feel like as responsible for what they have going on. You could also end up just having that same boundary not being met over and over again, and especially in a relationship where these expectations need to be met inherently, like for a boss and a coworker in a romantic relationship, it is important that you do set that boundary, because if you're not setting the boundary and that keeps happening, the relationship is out of balance and unequal, and you can't just detach from it and expect things to get better. You would have to set that boundary and then detach from it. Some people will just not listen to boundaries at all. Like, some people, you can tell them your boundaries over and over and over again, and they'll just keep crossing it. And at that point, it's like, you get restraining orders and stuff like that. Like, you keep that person away from you. But I just wanted to make sure to touch on the fact that I agree with everything she says, and I'm going to link the video when I'm done. I agree with everything she says, because detaching from other people and or even things like the past or your job and stuff like that, detaching from certain expectations will take a lot of weight off your shoulders, especially feeling responsibility if like somebody betrays you or treats you wrong, feeling like that might be your fault. Detaching is very important in being able to separate your own self and your own choices from the choices people make that have to do with you. But I did also want to include the boundaries thing, because I felt it was important, and I felt like she didn't quite touch on that in that video. So I hope that all made sense. I'm going to have more talks like these. I feel like it's important to talk about boundaries and stuff. So I'm going to have more talks like these and videos like these. Hope you enjoyed. Check out my other videos. Self promo. See you later.